Hi, welcome to our channel. See the summarize. Our movie begins with us talking to Larry and tearing her apart like this. They are sitting together and talking, and from what they say, we know that Larry remains a scientist in the virtual space industry. He is now working on a new experimental project called Project 5, and he is using drugs in the virtual reality that he is working on so that he can increase their abilities and know more things. He is talking to Tim says about the project and tells him that he is very afraid that he will fail this time and that he is afraid that something will ruin this world and that they should pay attention to the champagne. He should try it and let him be able to think in a better way and also train him how to fight. And in order to do this, they are forced to increase the dose of the drugs he is taking, but Larry refuses. He tells him that they can cause very great damage to the chimpanzee's brain. In the end, it will cause damage to the chimpanzee's brain and remain very aggressive with everyone around him, and no one will be able to control him. They convince Tim's that they must do this because they are forced to carry out the orders that come to them from the financiers who pay. At the same time, my friend, they're discussing and trying to reach a solution that satisfies him. The two of them, the chimpanzee named Roscoe, are able to break the lock on his cage and run away and attack the guards, and suddenly we see Larry getting up from sleep, listening to the sound of the phone, and it remains clear that he is having a nightmare. And Bella is telling them that the chimpanzee is listening. He escaped from the laboratory and quickly took Larry to a laboratory, and he talked and joked and told him that it means that he is thinking of abandoning the research that the army funds, and he is trying, meaning that he works alone and sees someone funding it from the private sector because no one is convinced of his opinion, and he feels that they are the ones who take the decision in every step, and he is not able. He works at his own leisure and remains extremely frustrated because of everything that is happening to him. But Tim's is careful not to take a step like this and thinks about the contract he had with the army and the VC company that is financing the project, and that there is a very large penalty clause. And Larry feels at that time that he is under siege from every direction and that the company, his thoughts, are controlling him, and Tim is trying to guide him and convince him that he is dealing with things calmly because he has no other solution. But Larry is determined on his mind and decides that he must leave this job by any means and at any cost and find a job in which he can relax and express all his thoughts in it and enjoy. Then Tari and Jobe see him working at a gas station, and a thug named Jack approaches Jobe and tries to harass him and wants to fight with him in any way. Tari enters at the last moment and tries to end the night before the matter grows between them. We go back to Larry again, and Caroline comes and removes the plug from his virtual reality device too. She makes him focus on the situation as normal, and his arrogance means that he gets up and she thinks that he promised that they would go out together today, and she is very upset because he does not think about anything other than work, and he does not give her any space of his time, and he does not think about any agreement between them, and he apologizes to her and Larry and tries to reconcile her in any way, and he does not care about her if the day is still why do you have a locker room like this and they can do everything that they can do? He keeps checking into a hotel. Why are the two of them? And they leave right away. We go to the shop and we see him working in a place, and he is close to a boy named Peter, and he talks to him, and in his hand is a book with cartoons on it, and the boy, he loves him very much and keeps watching him until his father calls him and asks him to come quickly, and then he shouts at the man and tells him that he is neglectful and does not do his job properly and wastes his time with his son, and that's it. Caroline thinks that she will walk away and gives Larry a second chance, and Larry tries to stop her and he won't leave her. She stays beside him, but she doesn't care about words at all, and she walks away and leaves, and he feels at that time that he is stressed because his whole life has been ruined, and his job as well. He doesn't know how to follow her from where, and he is concerned about someone working outside in the garden, and he goes out to see him, and he talks to this Job, and they ask if he wants to come and play with him. For a little while, he takes a break from work. He agrees with Job immediately, meaning he enters with him and explains to him how to play the game, letting him and Peter try many different games. After a while, he asks Peter to go out and get them some things to drink, because he still wants to sit with Job alone, and tries to convince him that he can make him smart more and increases his capabilities. He works a better job than that and changes his life completely. Job, of course, agrees with what he says and tells him that he is ready to do anything that will be asked of him, and he begins to see that he is training him and breathing well and completely relaxed with his body and does not think about anything that bothers him and is described to him, meaning that he must feel as if he is sitting among the stars and planets and there is no one else around him. He is screaming about a strange substance and is very afraid of needles, but Larry is able to guide him and tells him that he must take this injection. Larry records all the details. Larry's brain responded to it very easily and without any effort, and he feels that this is the opportunity of a lifetime for him. Early in the process of completing what he is doing, he develops the matter further and increases the dose he gave him. He remains sitting and waiting to see the results. He feels that Job is improving more and more, and he is tolerating and his brain is responding more. He is very reassured by Job that he will work with him all the time, and he will give God a lot of money. Job is very happy about this, and Larry feels that he has made very great progress in these few hours, and if he continues like this, he will be able to achieve a great success that no one has achieved before. With time, he finds that Job and his brain responds to anything he communicates to him. He understands that his brain works like a sponge and absorbs anything in front of it, and that's it. And in less than a month, he will find it. Larry's brain has improved by 400, and they are surprised that Job is 1,000,000 times better than any animal he did these experiments on, and that he is the one who will achieve his goal, and he enters a machine like this. Suddenly, Bella is seeing Job naked, and he is very surprised and does not understand what exactly is happening in their house. Job, that he is not. It is good that all he cares about is the money, but the father is defending himself and does not remain silent, as is the case every time, and he is very upset and tells him that he no longer needs him at all, and Mackin remains shocked because Job has changed a lot, and he keeps shouting and cursing at him and comes close to him to hit him. And then they stop, and he holds his hand tightly and tells him that he will never be allowed to visit it again. And then we will see Larry talking to Tims about the project, and he will talk about the need to implement the nootropic program and the internet learning programs, and he kills Tims with his words, thanking him for all his efforts and the progress he has achieved in the project. And Larry notices that they are delving deeper than that and probing their mouths in order to reach them for better results. Bay tells him that if they are able to do this, they will be able to benefit all of humanity with their success, and this convinces Tims that he will take him to the main laboratory, and he keeps tricking him so that he agrees. And we meet Marin, and we see her like this, and she is parking at the gas station, and he sees her as Job, and she is very impressed by him, and she asks him if she has seen him before. No, and she learns from him that he is working in their garden and that Marin is designing. That is, he is not the same person, because she knows the second very well, and she tells him that he is completely different from him and very handsome. And then he takes Harry Gobble to the main laboratory and explains to him all the machines that are in front of them, and that he can enter the virtual world with this huge device and move inside it with ease, using a specific suit, and it assures him that the nervous system, meaning his endocrine glands, will synchronize it, and he also explains to him what the function of the endocrine glands is, and he trains him on how to use virtual reality and remain proficient in it, and they take it after that and walk away. He tells him that he admires him very much in his brain, and he understands that what they are doing is exactly as if they are discovering a new planet, but instead of discovering them, he will choose, and that if he is able to do this, he will accomplish a very huge achievement and achieve a great experience that will benefit all of humanity, and the entire world will be transformed. And Larry begins to train him all the time. One day in the laboratory, and another day, Joe is walking and working in the garden, and he hears a sudden sound and looks around to see what he is doing. He finds Flex standing far away, wearing home clothes, and she calls him and asks him to come in and rest and drink juice with her. As soon as he comes in, Marn tries to get closer to him, and after that, Tim suggests that they transfer their funding to the Scientific Intelligence Department in Washington, but Larry feels that in order for them to be able to do this, they must remain very well prepared and maintain all the factors that they need with them. But Tim's is determined that they mean to do this, and Miller insists that he stay ready and train his job very well, and tells him that there are dangers around them. It is very strong and could be revealed at any time, and if anyone finds out that what they have done or are doing, they will both be punished and everything will end. He takes Peter to eat together in a restaurant, and suddenly he feels a strange and very severe crack, and he is no longer able to see well, and he hears strange sounds around him and does not know how. He controls himself and runs quickly until he leaves the restaurant. He keeps holding his head because of the intense pain. He gets into the car and gets to Larry. He tells him what happened to him and everything he felt, and tells him that he was able to read the thoughts of all the people sitting around him. He was very surprised by what was happening to him, and he is afraid that he will go crazy, because of what is happening to him, and Larry tries to calm him down and asks him to wait until he thinks and finds an explanation for what is happening to him, and he remains very surprised at all the rapid development that has come to him, even after taking doses for a while, and Larry thinks like this about what might happen next if they continue with it. Thus, he no longer believes himself and feels that he is achieving greater results than what he had imagined, especially the topic of how he can learn anything quickly. Larry repeats that he does not tell the times everything that happened because he may feel threatened by the development that is taking place and will make him finish the whole experiment. At this time, we see Tim talking to their manager and explaining to him the developments that Larry can do if they give him a chance. He tolerates the manager very much for Larry and his crazy ideas, but he feels that they will be taking a very big risk if they run these tests on a human being, and that they must take him into consideration as a human being and that you should never play with them. He asks Tim to take care of all these details himself and convinces Larry that he is working within the ethics and principles of his experiments and does not go beyond all of this and does not harm people, because then they will all be exposed to the example because of him. Then Tim repeats that he is putting an end to Larry's ambition and enters the laboratory and takes all the medications that he injects. Jobe is with her, and it begins to happen that something has changed in Jobe. He stops the system and tries to guide Jobe from the changes that are happening in his body. After a while, Jobe takes his beloved to the laboratory with him and asks her to try the system in the virtual mode, and after that she very much enjoys this experience and will feel an unnatural feeling, and the girl really does. She can't believe what she's seeing, and she feels anxious about everything that's happening, and she's very afraid because she finds Jobe suddenly becoming aggressive towards her, and she asks him to take her out of the game because she's upset and doesn't want to continue. But Jobe refuses, and she feels that she's continuing in good health, and he's reassured that nothing in the world can harm her. The default is already, and the girl's fear increases, and she continues to deceive him so that he ends the game. Jobe at this time remains very amused and is not satisfied with listening to her words at all. Suddenly, a strange malfunction occurs in Jobe's brain system, and he finds that he has been put on an automatic shutdown and runs to pass by, and we see Larry talking to him. Tim is fighting with him because he has discovered what he is doing and is convinced that he is letting him complete the experiment until the other and that he cannot bear all the consequences. But Tim's tells him that he is not ready for this yet and that he must control himself well, meaning that he should make sound decisions for the benefit of all of them. When Tim's finds him determined, he tells him that they will not be able to hide what is happening from their manager and that they are already healed. And they must say that it is happening instead of what he knows on his own, and it will remain a disaster. Then Larry talks to Jobe and learns from him that he is now able to move the things around him with his mind without getting up and feeling that this is what is happening. It means a miracle, and he can no longer believe himself. And at that time, Larry repeats that he is doing many tests for his father in order to know all his abilities and all the things he can do and to understand what is happening more. And Larry understands what is happening, that in the first place, all these abilities are not strange to humans and that they have existed for a long time in any country. An ordinary human being, when they used virtual reality, all of these abilities began to appear the second time, and Larry is very happy, but at the same time, he is afraid of the results that he may achieve due to this great progress, and that he may be in many dangers that he will not be able to control, and he hopes that he will remain more wise and work in the one who is coming means taking slow steps to be careful. But Jobe refuses, insisting that they continue in the same way, and tells him that now he is much smarter than him and can do many things that no one else knows how to do. He asks him not to think about fear at all, and he continues with their plan that they are going on, and he goes to Larry. After a while, Teams goes to a meeting with the director, and the director asks him to tell him all the changes that happened an hour ago. He does not begin to know exactly what development there is, and they cut off the ribbon and tell him that it is still too early to tell him his results, because the experiment is still running, teacher, and he cannot judge me. The situation now suddenly, and without any introductions, tells Tim's everything and talks about Jobe and his intelligence and that he is determined, meaning he will continue the experiment after all the development that has happened to him. And I repeat that they are stopping the whole project because it is dangerous to all of them and to humanity, and they continue with their original project. And Larry spends very much at that time and keeps shouting and telling them that it is impossible for him to do this after what he has achieved, and they are thus throwing all his efforts on the ground. He tells them that the old project is basically a fad and that the chimpanzee cannot bear it, nor his body can bear what is happening, to the point that he went crazy and ran away. He tells them that everything he did is not recorded in reports and no one will be able to. He proves him and asks them to give him a chance to prove himself and confirm the success of his experiment, and they all succeed together and he can benefit all of humanity. But Tim's Fatal harasses him and tells him that he knows all the developments that are happening and is a good and strong follower of Jobe, and that if they continue like this, Jobe may still be dangerous and no one will ever be able to control him. Larry feels desperate because he is unable to convince them, and he walks away, and Jobe enters the laboratory alone and takes all the medications that he was using, and Baker injects himself and completes the treatment himself, and Tim goes to Larry and talks to him, and they follow him in the same way. Understands that he is very afraid for him. He is doing this for his own benefit, but Larry does not. He is convinced of his words. Say that he betrayed and laughed at him, and they doubt him. And all the people who work with him say that they only think about their own interests, and it makes no difference to them that all the effort that is his work is done. Tim tries to defend himself and tells him that he is the sheriff's dog and he is required to do what he does. Asks him for nothing more than that. He is unable to do anything he can do, and I can only tell him to forget everything that happened and go back to work again on the first project and reach results that are satisfactory to everyone. They tell Tim's before he leaves that they will bring a man to the laboratory to talk to him because the director requested that, and at the same time, this is Larry seeing a car parked in front of his house, and he knows that they want to catch him, and he tries to escape. And tears stop him, but Larry hits him and he runs away in the end, and as soon as he gets out, he finds a guard in front of him and threatens him with the weapon he has, and Larry thinks that he attacks him with his butt and lets go of him with a car bus and runs with it quickly before no one catches him. And at this time, gentlemen, the job goes to Jack and takes him. He gets into the gasoline and keeps playing in it and opens all the gas pipes that are there. Jack keeps tricking him into letting him go, but the job is determined to take revenge on him and tells him that it's over, there's no chance to escape, and then he goes home. Peter gets into a big mood and breaks his rules. Baker takes revenge on Peter's father, who was always tearing him down. At this moment, Pasha, he finishes him without any mercy. Then the next morning, Larry sees the police present at the place. He tries to find out what happened. The officer tells him everything. It happened exactly, and he tells him that they found Jack's charred body. They found Peter's house broken, and his father's body was torn apart by the machine in the garden, and the body remained thrown at a bathroom in the garden. I wonder who was able to commit this heinous crime, and what is the reason for this revenge, and who is trying to get this done to him by any means. And as soon as he enters, he finds Jobe sleeping and focused in the virtual world, and he tries to surpass him. What he cannot. He finds that his strength has increased greatly and that he remains dangerous. As soon as he comes out of the virtual reality, Jobe begins to tell him what is happening to him and tells him that this world is not just an imagination and that he can live a full life. He lives in it according to his own mood and by his own rules, and there are no limits in it. He feels the necessity of power and that no one can control him. He thinks that it is possible to be the beginning of a new generation that is stronger and much better than normal skin. Larry tries to convince him that all of this is an illusion and that this is just a game and that it is a curse. What he is doing is against humanity, and he must rise above himself and stop himself from the evil inside him, and he is ready to help him and fix everything that happened. But Jobe is not convinced by what he says and is determined to continue in the world he is in, and he remains happy with what he has achieved after all the weakness he was in, and he is destined to be him. Larry's shoulder, and he leans on the chair and tells him that no one will be able to stop him after that, and no one will be able to weaken him and belittle him again. And he gets up and puts Larry on his game glasses and pours out everything he is doing to the men that teams sent to stop him, and explains to Larry that he will go to the laboratory and connect himself to the main computer. He will be able to control the minds of all those working in the place, control everything, and control the world step by step. This time, there is no force in the world that will be able to stop him. Peter arrives at Larry's house, and when he enters, he finds him looking down and trying to break it up, and Larry asks him to let his mother call the police and inform him. They go to the laboratory quickly, and at this time, Teams is trying to control all the data that is present before any harm happens to them all, and to protect the laboratory, and suddenly they learn that someone has hacked the system, entered the laboratory, entered the main computer, and is able to control all the data that is there, and there is no one of them is able to access any information on the computer, and all the data is hacked, and it is very slow at that time, and they inform the officials of what is happening. Suddenly, all communications are cut off, and none of them are able to communicate with anyone outside the place. We see Jobe taking Terry with him while he is walking, and unfortunately Terry is struck by fire and dies, and Jobe is very dead, and Baker finishes them. Oh, and Bessie flew into the mind of one of them and realized that he was killing himself, and then entered a laboratory and used the equipment in it and entered the virtual reality, and Bessie flew into all the computers in the place, and his power increased greatly, and at that time he told Larry that he would act and end what was happening and that he could connect to the system of reality. He is trapped in Job's body in the virtual reality and is unable to get out of it. He suddenly feels inside that he is lost and tries to search everywhere for any connection that he can use to get out of life again, and he cannot find anything at all and no longer knows what to do. Larry feels at that time that he is the reason for all this, and Baker enters the virtual world and talks to Job and tries to reason with him, but Job, as soon as he sees him in his hand, refuses to agree with him about anything. Suddenly, Peter appears and looks on Zerar by mistake. By coincidence, he is able to save Larry and get his life out again, and they both go out from the building quickly before it all explodes and transports themselves from death. In the last scene of the movie, we see Larry in Peter's house and he hears the sound of the phone ringing, and suddenly, he hears the same sound ringing in another place, and we discover that the phone is ringing all over the world at the same moment, and 2 films end like this, and I will see you in his greatness is coming. Peace, gentlemen.